Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. I want to welcome back everyone who has been following my channel. I very much appreciate it. I love the comments. Thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, well, I hope you stick around. I hope you find something worth your sticking around. And I hope you like my videos. Give me a subscription if you can. But most importantly, everyone knows I love the comments. And that's really what's important to me is just seeing just sitting around basically and talking about books. That's what I love to do. All right, so I did finish some reading this week. I did finish The Secret of Ventriloquism. Of course, I talked about this. I was listening to this. It's by John Padgett. It was published in October 31st, 2016. The book has 201 pages, and on Goodreads they did give it a 3.95, pretty high rating actually. Well, what is it? It's basically a short story compilation by John Padgett. It's similar to, I've got it over here, it's similar to like Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. It's several short stories that have been brought together into one book, and they all kind of, in some way or another, are in the same universe or use some of the same characters. It kind of tells an ongoing story. Some people say that you should read them in order. I don't know that you necessarily have to, but they were interesting. I have to be honest, not my most favorite thing I've read so far this year. I actually listened to it, and maybe that was part of the problem. It was read by John Padgett himself, the author. It just, I don't know if it was his voice, his pacing, the way he read or whatever. I don't know. Really wasn't one of my favorite type things that I've listened to for a while. Again, now, I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and one of them does mostly talk about cosmic horror, H.P. Lovecraft stuff, horror, quiet horror. They love their quiet horror. They talk about TV series and movies. Now, I take their recommendations to heart. You know how you listen to a podcast and you almost kind of start feeling like they're your friends, like they're your buddies? I'm not even going to name it, but the problem with it is they have like their darlings. They have their friends, and they promote their writing well above other people's writing. Now, of course, they all love Stephen King. Stephen King's the king, of course. But they have these 5 or 6 or 7 authors that they push their stuff. I like to listen to the recommendations, especially the movies. Their movies have been great. Their TV series recommendations have been great. They have authors on their show, and they interview the authors. Those have been great and very interesting. But they really do have a couple darlings that they love. So I've taken their recommendations into consideration and got some of these books. And that's what I did with The Secret of Ventriloquism. They talked it up so huge. I've got to be honest with you. I've done now probably read 6 books of their recommendations, and I liked 1. So I don't know. I don't know what that means, but suffice it to say, I listened to it. I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. I think it was too forced. The way he tried to tie all the stories together. I think it originally started with a story, the 20 Lessons of Ventriloquism, something like that. And I think he wrote that, and he got a lot of accolades for it. So then I think either the publisher, him, his editor, or whoever, agent, hey, let's put together a short story compilation and tie them all together somehow. There's a town that he uses that are the same. There's different themes. The ventriloquism runs through the different stories. He has a thing for Daddy Longlegs. That's a big theme that runs through. A Man with Six Fingers runs through it. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. There was one story though that I did like. It was called Murmurs of a Voice Foreknown. Now, I liked it because it was so similar to H.P. Lovecraft's The Music of Eric Zahn, which is one of my favorite stories by H.P. Lovecraft. And it almost seems like he purposely was trying to write some type of cosmic horror along the lines of H.P. Lovecraft. This book trying to set up its own type of mythos, maybe. But I just think he fell a little short. I'm sorry to say, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't horrible, but by no means. People love it. A 3.95 rating on Goodreads. I mean, take Goodreads as you will. I don't ever put any reviews. I don't write reviews on Goodreads because the ones I read, very oftentimes, you can almost tell that they didn't read the book. They skimmed it or whatever. Oftentimes a 1 rating on Goodreads will be, had too many characters in it, so I DNF'd it. I mean, that's not a reason to give somebody a 1. I mean, I read the first 50 pages and I couldn't finish it. It was horrible. I mean, you got to give a book more than 50 pages, I think. I know that a lot of people say if you don't grab me right off the beginning. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let's move on. It wasn't my favorite thing that I've read. I'm not saying don't try it. You may like it. It was cosmic horror, quiet horror kind of thing. I just didn't like the audio version, I guess. Next, Joe Hill, the graphic novel collection. I finished this. I'll tell you what, this is one of the best things I've read this year. It was awesome. The artwork, I mean, I can't even show you the pages to do it justice. And the cool thing is, there's different artists. There are 5 stories in this. The Cape 1969, Thumbprint, Kodiak, and Wraith. Now, Jason, and forgive me, Jason, if I pronounce your name wrong, Jason Sierra Mella did the script for The Cape 1969, and Thumbprint, where Joe Hill did do the script for Kodiak and Wraith. They're all taken from stories written by Joe Hill, of course. Man, every single one grabbed my attention, held my attention. Again, like I said, the artwork was great. Let me even give a shout out. The art in The Cape was Zach Howard. The art in The Cape 1969 was Nelson Daniel. The art in Thumbprint was by Vic Malhotra. Kodiak was Nat Jones, and Wraith was Charles Paul Wilson III. I think I'm really going to get into Joe Hill. I did read the first collection of Lock and Key. Now I've read that. I haven't read any of his novels or the actual short stories, but just by those 2 things that I've read, I really think I'm going to like Joe Hill. So I'm going to start reading some of his stuff soon. All right, what's next? Well, I finally finished When the Sky Fell on Splendor by Emily Henry. Again, you guys know. You've done it. I've done it. Everyone's done it. You buy a book by its cover. I thought it was interesting. It jumped out at me from the bookshelf. The cool name, When the Sky Fell in Splendor, great book. I don't know who the author is. It's Emily Henry. I hadn't heard of her. I guess she is a very popular YA writer. But right on the inside of the jacket, it says, The Serpent King Meets Stranger Things. in this lush page-turning novel from Emily Henry, author of The Love That Split the World and A Million Junes. Well, Serpent King meets Stranger Things sound great to me. The cover kind of indicated maybe some Stranger Things, some aliens, things like that. So, what is it? It is a YA story. It is about these 6 friends. They're in high school. One of them is getting ready to graduate and go to college. A couple of them actually are going to graduate. But it's 6 friends, and they're kind of like the Losers Club, kind of like Breakfast Club or something. And they start this YouTube channel where they do kind of mockumentaries on different things, ghost stories and things like that. So they go to this house to do a ghost story mockumentary. Something happens. Something falls from the sky. They go and observe it, touch it. Something happens to them. They lose hours of their life. But weird things start happening, not only to them, but in the town. So it goes from there. Is it a government cover-up? Is it an alien? Is there someone out to destroy Earth? Is there a love story? Also, these kids' lives are horrible. Why are they horrible? Well, there was an accident in the mill in town years prior that killed some family members. So it unfortunately is too, I don't know, segmented kind of in the writing and the stories. There's 6 kids, really only like 3 of them do anything, really. There's a dog. The dog's cool. Droog is cool. He's a border collie. So there's animal in it. It was cool. But it's just too disjointed for me, really. Especially the action scenes. There were some issues there. Some continuity issues that really caused problems with me. You know, you're on one side of the road, there's a car following you, then all of a sudden you're on the other side of the road. How did you get to the other side of the road? There was an issue where the one girl was trying to get away from a guy who may be trying to kill her. She couldn't run from him because prior she had sprained or twisted her ankle so badly she couldn't walk on it, so she couldn't run away from him. So he grabs her and he starts chloroforming her. She gets knocked out. She comes to, and she sees her friend, one of the other 6, fighting this guy off of her, who's going to kill her. And she jumps up and runs and knocks him down. But she couldn't run away from him because her ankle was so, you know, severely sprained. And then he's got her on the hood. He grapples with her and gets her on the hood of the car. He's got a gun held now on the friend. And then all of a sudden, her and the friend are running to their car while the guy's on his knees with his face in his hands. And then you hear the cops coming, and they come and they arrest him. And then they're in the back seat of this FBI now are there. Oh my God, it was just jumping all over the place. And then the one girl that saved her says, wow, you really should get some pepper spray, you know, carry some pepper spray with you. So apparently she pepper sprayed the guy in the face that had the gun on her and was holding down her friend, but it never happened. I never saw it. How did this happen? All of a sudden he's on his knees with his hands in his... So just things like that. The action sequences were really not good. Very disjointed. Hard to follow while you're reading. The rest of the story wasn't bad. I'm not going to say it was a horrible book. It wasn't. It was a decent book. If I were younger, if I was a YA, I probably would love this book. I just didn't like it that much. And you know what made me realize I didn't like it? Because as I was reading it, I was like, this is okay. It's a cool story. Interesting to a degree. But after I was done, I figured out, you know what? It took me forever to read this book. It's only 340 pages, and it took me like over 2 weeks to read this book. Why? Well, a lot of times, when you're reading a book, you can't wait to, after you put it down, you can't wait to get back to it. And I never had that feeling with this book. I never had any reason really to pick it up and start reading it over doing something else. And now I know I was tired last month, but I realized I just wasn't invested in this book at all. In the story or the characters, the character development really wasn't there. But I don't know. It wasn't horrible. All right, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Let's talk about what I'm going to read next. So I am going to pick these up. Now, some of you probably have already seen these. I've showed these before on the channel. These are a Kickstarter that I backed a couple months ago. And it's H.P. Lovecraft's Beauty and the Beast. Well, it's a story. It's the Beauty and the Beast as you would think if H.P. Lovecraft wrote it. So it's not a real thing, of course, but it's fiction. It's comic book series. There's 4 in the series. The artwork looks very tasty. So I'm going to be reading that. So that's next. What else? Well, we talked about this. The Haunting of Hill House. I've started it. Haven't gotten very far yet. Really, I just read the introduction today. But The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And I love this version. It's really, really nice. This won't take me too long. I'm sure I'll love this. But I'm going to read that. And I'm listening to or reading Rick Atkinson, The British Are Coming. Now, this is volume 1, The War of America, Lexington to Princeton, 1775 to 1777. This is a trilogy, and I love the American Revolution, the War for Independence. I'm actually just starting chapter 4, listening to it, and it's really, really interesting right now. I'm really liking it. One thing, I've learned some things maybe I knew before, but I forgot. During the War of Independence, the Britons sent a lot of ships over to blockade America and, to transport people and guns and things like that. But I didn't know that throughout the history of the war, 14% of the Navy jumped ship. They defected. They quit. They left the British Navy and became American citizens. 14%, like some crazy number, like 8,000 or 80, I don't know. That's crazy. But anyways, learning a lot of stuff about the American Revolution that you learn in school, like, Paul Revere, the Bride of Paul Revere and things like that are in here already. But a lot of extra things too that are really interesting. So I'm really looking forward to finishing that. All right, last but not least today. So I've talked about Kim, the Paper Traveler. She has a booktube channel on YouTube. She's been a very generous follower of mine since I started. Well, I was watching her. Well, she's got another video I haven't even watched yet today. But her last video before that, she showed an album that she bought. So she bought this Jack White album and, was discussing that it had been a long time since she had bought an actual album. And she showed it. They're taking these albums now and they're not just black all the time. They can be different colors and different designs on them. And she showed the one that she got from Jack White. So I had mentioned in her comments that it was funny that I had just bought an album too, and I hadn't bought an album in years. Every once in a while when I go through a thrift store and looking for books and stuff, I will grab, I'll look at the albums that they have in it, and I might grab a couple here or there, but usually they're in pretty, sad shape. But every once in a while I grab a used album. But I hadn't bought a new one in, years. And I happened to just buy one last week or the week before as well. And she said, well, I want to see it. So I'm going to show it. This is the very best of ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, all over the world. So it's pretty cool. It's a double album. It's got all the cool ELO songs on it. Look at the inside. Isn't that sweet? And so she asked me to show it. So I'm going to show you what it is. It comes with a nice little picture here with some information on it. I haven't read it actually yet. And one of the albums, the first one, is red. Check that out. Isn't that cool? So there's a red one. Be careful with that, Tad. I'm just going to set it over here for now. And then the other one is, come on, baby. Oh, is white. Isn't that sweet? Look at that. That is awesome. All right, so that's for Kim, the paper traveler. Oh, geez. Now what am I going to do? Now I'm going to start spending all my money buying albums. Oh, I've got to replace the ones I had. I had hundreds of them when I was younger, and I won't tell that story, but I lost them. Anyways, I'm trying to replenish my albums now. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Once again, if you found anything interesting, please like and subscribe. And as always, write me some comments. I love reading comments. All right, y'all. Peace out.